Hi Moonbeams. Happy full moon in Pisces, harvest moon. I'm doing this reading late at night on the actual date of the full moon, Monday, September 20th. So this video is for the collective energies that are coming through the full moon. We're going to explore the energetic map that is presented to us in the reading. The cards are picked, they're flipped down. Before I flip them over, I usually discuss some of the images or keywords that come through when I open myself up, a little visitor, to receiving energetic downloads, communication, just feeling into the energy. So I feel as though we're going to be touching a lot on the new moon reading that I did a few weeks ago for the new moon in Virgo. And if you haven't seen that, if you feel called, definitely go check that one out, because I feel as though we are going to be speaking to those themes because it's still, Virgo season. And yeah, so there's just going to be a lot of touch points with that, because we talked about a spiral, a completion, and like pronging off into a new beginning. And so Pisces, the polarity of Virgo, is the two fish swimming in opposite directions with a thin like line connecting both of them, which is, a symbol of completion, a symbol of everything in existence, the expanse of existence, and the polarity and the connection between. So the key word that kept coming into my mind, that I kept hearing, is the word junction. And I actually had to look it up to make sure that I really knew what that meant. And it is a meeting place. It is a junction in between two directions or two things. So I feel it's important to really focus in on the symbol of Pisces and the line, the thin tether connecting both sides, because Pisces is this and that and the connection between. And it's important to talk about because there's so much going on right now, and it feels like loud and overwhelming at times, and it can feel really it is polarized. So the focus on the connection between, I feel, is important, and the moon is wanting to invite us into that reflection, that in our personal lives as well as the collective, and how all of those intersect, how the individual intersects with the collective and vice versa. So yeah, junction. So what does that mean to you? Like, what kind of comes up for you when you think of a junction in your life? What has ended and what is beginning, and where I guess, finding yourself at a junction in between, because when something ends, things also begin. So let's just see what the cards say. Let's flip them over and check them out. Okay. All right. Well, confusion. Just the energy of confusion has just kind of entered the space, which is understandable because sometimes like Piscean energy can be really like ethereal and expansive, which can feel like kind of confusing and maybe even a bit disorienting. I also sense too there's a lot of like the murky things that hide in the shadow really presenting themselves right now. I sense a lot of anxiety that's being worked through. And I get the sense that these are things that you are aware of, like you're aware of these things. You also know how to articulate them, which is really good. And I can sense that there's been a lot of work there when it comes to like learning how to express and articulate your needs, your thoughts, your perspective. It's interesting, sweethearts, because it feels like there's such clarity with your voice, and clarity with how you see things and how you are expressing your perspective, which is amazing. Then this underlying anxiety, it's like almost like, oh, should I have said that, or should I say that, or like, do I even have a voice in this, or like, do I even like have a place in this? Like, but you also have this real articulated perspective on something, whatever it may be. So that's interesting. I just heard to remember to ground into the earth when things become maybe a bit more cerebral or even like deeply intuitive, right? Which is important. This is part of Pisces. This is like being open to all of this energy that is of this existence, and there could be a lot being downloaded at this time through you about your life, about the community in which you live in, the collective, and like life in general, like this deep spiritual experience. And I feel as though too with that, like, how do I put this into words? It's like everything's really loud or something. When things become really, really loud, remember to ground. Pisces polarity is Virgo, which is earth. Virgo brings it down into earth and reminds us, right, back to the new moon reading, that we are whole, and everything that we need in order to navigate the experiences of our life, we have, and we will find, and incorporate. So trust in that. And I just heard like go outside. Maybe it's like this plant like really wanted to be in this video. So perhaps like working with your plants, your garden, going outside, hugging a tree, bringing it all back into here and now, and this power that you have as a natural being of this world. What a blessing, what an interesting experience we find ourselves in right now, hey? That we are this thing that can describe its experience and can connect to the expansive energy of life. So I feel as though we're becoming closer to that. And at the same time, it can feel like we're getting farther from that. But remember that Pisces is this and that and the connection between. I can sense that a lot of you are like energetic chemists right now, which is kind of cool. A cool energy to feel like maybe it's like this and a little bit of that, and well, you know, how does that combine? I'm bringing this from the Temperance card in your strengths. I like to start really with strengths when it comes to like showing the cards and in general because it's important. But you have Temperance in your strengths, which is this curiosity, the alchemist, connecting two things into one thing. It's in your strengths, so there's this observation. And I'm also using the light and shadow tarot deck, so it's a light like a full light deck and a full shadow deck, and combined it's really big. I'll show it to you. Look at it. It's like two full tarot decks combined and use them together. So you have the Temperance in a shadow position, which really shows me that there's this internal alchemy happening, like really looking at and observing yourself. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, what happens, right? So it's interesting though, because there's so much like, I just heard like, yeah, like swampy shit like coming up, which I feel is important. The moon, right? The full moon is going to draw these like watery elements, these things stuck in like the caverns of our shadow, to the surface, to be examined and to be released in certain ways, right? The more that you bring awareness to these things, which I can see is happening with the sun in the shadow position in your conscious position in the spread, that there's this light being shone on the, challenging things, the like, oh man, like I just got really, it's like the stuff that you're just like, that comes up that instantly kind of derails you. These can be old memories, experiences, things that are your mistakes, like things where you should have said something, things where you should have not said something, and those like little gremlin-y stuff that sits on our chest. But remember that you are powerful, and the more, right, you bring light to these places, the more, like, I guess, the more power you take away from them. So yeah, I also feel like, back to the new moon reading, I think I mentioned like your inner child really bringing you to those places those places that you need to cut loose from, that are draining you, that are inhibiting you, that are blocking you. And it feels as though there's more of a gusto with that when it comes to like really going to battle even with parts of yourself that you're just done with, that don't serve you anymore. And there's this desire to like, there's this desire, I'm gonna finish this and then I'll go to that point, to battle these things out because you want to take that last bit of power away from them. Like there's something ending and there's something beginning in your life, and there's probably multiple of those things because we're complex creatures. So again, back to the junction. Where are you right now in this junction of endings and beginnings? And what are you like really wanting to leave behind? Because I sense that they're sitting on your chest right now, staring at you. well, you know, tossing and turning at night. Like, this is uncomfortable energy with the Nine of Swords in your present position, right? This is like lots of worry, and of course it's valid. There's lots to worry about. There's lots to be concerned about. So how are you showing up for yourself and nurturing yourself as your adult self, right? Thinking of yourself as like an inner child, back to those places. Like, how are you going to show up for yourself in those places that are scared or worried or hurt, you know, feeling even shame, or all of these kind of like challenging emotions that can really derail us and get in our face. So your inner child is battling those with you when it comes to releasing yourself from those places. It's like maybe perhaps a lot of you have followed that tether into those places that inhibit you, block you, and it's putting up a little bit of a fight. But remember, you're powerful, and this is a part of you in a way that, like, your power can take the power. I don't know if this is making sense. Your power, remember, you're whole, you have everything you need to navigate the experiences of your life, can do this. So trust in that. That won't be confusing forever. It won't, you know, bother you like the way it maybe has forever. And, you know, sometimes things aren't so cut and dry, but there's a certain level you're getting with something. And you're saying you can't come. And you're willing to really like attack it in a way, internally. I feel specifically, going back to that point that almost like I almost segued, it's very like generational feeling. Perhaps a lot of you are turning around to generational pain, trauma, patterns that it stops with you. And that's a hard, intense experience, my darlings. But I can feel you're like, no. Thinking about the greater good, thinking about your family, thinking about, you know, the people around you, how you're moving forward in life itself, and how you want to influence your energetic environment and not bring certain things with you. And this is an act of mercy, it feels like, to your family line. Oh, I just kind of got emotional there. And also connects with the collective, like what is like not working and should not move forward in the, you know, with us. What needs to stop, like what's unhealthy, you know. And I sense a lot of you have things to say about that, and also are feeling into like what place you have in this, and you have a very important place, okay? So don't let those little things, or rather like be aware of those little things that come up. Like just be like, oh hey, yeah, hey anxiety, hey self-doubt, hey self-sabotage, hey little like thing that pops in the head that remind me of that one time I failed, like all of these kind of things, right? Employ your inner child to go to battle with them, because the Five of Swords is represented in your inner child. It's like, if you're finding yourself battling yourself and going around in circles, try and ground and locate yourself, and then realize like what is the battle about and what is not coming with you as chapters end and chapters begin. I hope that makes sense. I feel too that it's important to talk about the Three of Swords in your advice position. What has like hurt you? I feel as though like what is the pain? What has broken your heart? What hurts you? What pains you? What like disappoints you? And what has, you know, and how can you utilize that in a way that either brings awareness to what you're dealing with right now internally when it comes to your processes that are not helpful. And perhaps that can help bring more clarity and more like words to the experience to, again, take more power away from them. The more you understand something, like the more you can be aware of it and be like, hey, because it's just going to pass through. Super interesting. How does your pain illuminate what it is that you want to do, right? Pisces is this and that and the connection between. You know, I honestly love it. It's like this vibe of really learning to articulate yourself, really getting to know your own mind, your own heart, and how to describe your heart, your frequency, your energy. It's so clear, and then there's this like murkiness, and then there's this like battle kind of through the murkiness, and you're doing it, and you're doing great, and this moon is going to help bring those things up and invites you to release them. This is the Piscean moon, the harvest moon. Things are being harvested in the northern, you know, like in the northern hemisphere. It's the fall equinox. So there's a certain completion with a lot of the plants, right, that we can observe, where the leaves are starting to turn, they're going to start falling down. There's certain things that are going to be like, you know, the gardens like turned in, beds, all of these things, plants brought inside. There's a lot that's kind of prepping for the death and then the deep winter, right? And in the southern hemisphere, it's, you know, opposite. There's spring happening. There's certain plants coming back. There's more sun. There's more light, right? So when we're experiencing this, they're experiencing that, and we are all connected. So it's interesting to reflect on that, because it can just be helpful to reflect on that if you're thinking about the tether between, like the connection between the two experiences. So, what is being put to rest for the season, for good, for the time being, whatever fits for you, right? And then what's beginning? What's taking form? And how does it feel to be at this junction, my darlings? There's so much coming to light. It's not comfortable. I can see that with the Nine of Swords. But there's so much fierce energy around you. You have the Page of Swords in the unconscious position, or the subconscious position, the King of Swords in your heart, the King of Swords in the light position. So you have two King of Swords here, which really shows me that you're thinking of the whole. You're thinking of the collective. You know, you as a whole being, your family as a unit, your friends, your community, the collective life, and what part you want to play in ending certain things that are not helpful or healthy for all of us, and bringing in things that are. So this is a very, very humanitarian vibe that I'm getting with the two King of Swords here. Again, to a very generational curse-breaking vibe. And when things get really intense and you're like maybe lost, it feels like, whoa, like you're trying to find your, you know, like something to hold on to. Go outside, touch your plants, yeah, just try to find, even just open your window, breathe some fresh air, something, because nature wants to help you. You are a natural being to this planet. You are made of this planet. Okay, so let her help you. And also give back to her too, right? Like, show your love. All right, let's do some oracle. Let's flip it over. We've got Kuan Yin, compassion, release judgments about yourself and others and focus on the love and light that is within everyone. So sometimes that can be difficult, right? When there's conflict, or you're not seeing eye to eye, there's, you know, two sides, and you're really not relating to that other person or that other side, or like their perspective or things like that, right? It can be hard to find the compassion, and yet still remain, you know, in your truth. So I feel as that's an important thing to reflect on in this moon cycle. I'm sorry, my dog just needs a little drink. And then I'm using Fairy Godmother Oracle, so let's flip them over here. Okay, we've got guilt and we've got victimhood. Now this is interesting because I posted something on my like vintage business story, and there is a part where it's like full moon release, guilt, and victimhood, right? And among many other things. So where are you feeling like guilty, and why? Where does that come from, right? Follow that tether. Remember you are safe and loved and protected. Use your inner child. Your inner child is willing to go and thrash through these places, these brambles with you, in order to help free yourself, to bring more of that inner light to the situation, to the wound, right? And not feeling as a victim to these things that come up, these places in all of us that we house guilt or shame, or like all of these difficult feelings that really derail us and disempower us from doing what we are supposed to be doing in the world. And it feels big, babies. Like, these things are kind of getting in the way of your birthright at this point, and I feel like you're sick of it at the same time, and you're like, oh God, like, no. And there's this real like divine guidance from Creator that is assisting you. There's this compelling nature to deep dive into yourself, and that things coming up are not chill, but you're bigger than these things, and you have help. You have everything that you need. Okay, so let's get into these. Let's read a little bit, and then we'll end for this moon reading. So let's read about Kuan Yin. This is a kind universe, and everyone within it is working in your favor. There are no tests, blocks, or obstacles in your way except your own projections of fear into your future. Take a moment and hush your mind, quieting it from worries and fears. Feel me brush your brow with a new energy of faith, hope, and optimism. These energies fuel your exciting present time as well as all future moments. Why would you wish darkness upon yourself when light shines all around you? Step into this brightness by lightening your thoughts and feelings. You must stop worrying, as this anxiety squelches the goodness that seeks to find you. Clear your heart of fear and replace those energies with ones that will serve you and your family instead. Refuse to think of anything except your bright today and tomorrow, and I promise that it shall be so. Wow. Just felt the need to take a deep breath, and maybe let's do that too. Let's take another deep breath. It can be helpful to clear the cobwebs within when these, difficult, feelings are taking form, and again, squelching the goodness that is to find you. And at the same time, I can sense you feeling the goodness and fighting for the goodness, and bringing that inner light to things, and really getting to know your light, your shadow, and the connection between, right? Interesting. All right, let's do the fairy godmother. We got two, so let's do this one first. Let's do guilt first. So here you go. It's really glossy cards. I don't know if you can see, but this is like fairy godmother energy for the collective. So there is a little poem that comes with each one of them. So I'll read that first. Guilt. Guilt is punishment enough. It drowns the heart and makes it tough. Guilt's a bully in all but name, inviting in her sister, shame. Between the two, they'll make you fake. Release, say no, and eat some cake. Amazing. And so interesting. Thank you for bringing that into the space, fairy godmothers, because yeah, guilt and shame, they seem to come in pairs. And so the question why comes into my head, right? And that is such an important question to ask yourself in your spiritual journey. Why? And again, when you find more answers, you take more power away from these things and get into your own driver's seat more and more and more. So here, allow me, dear one, to lift that heavy weight you've been carrying around. You are so consumed with guilt that you are no longer able to function as once you did. The problem with this emotion is that it clouds your judgment and cloaks your outlook. What once perceived as sunny now appears to you as a big black cloud, and you are blinded to the beauty that shines all around you. Because you are such a sensitive soul, you naturally take on others' feelings. The problem here is that you tend to analyze what you presume to be people's emotional hurts and thoughts, and you end up torturing yourself with worry on their behalf. Interesting. I can definitely see that presented in the cards as well. How often have you not been able to bear the thought of someone being on their own, not having enough money, or enjoy the love life you would see them have? I ask you this: who are you to presume that they are a victim? Maybe you need to heal from these situations that you perceive through guilty eyes, for you have not considered that other people do not think or feel the same way about things you do. When you try to wrap someone in cotton wool, you may be preventing them from learning important life lessons and thus stalling their soul from evolving. You are in fact disempowering others by feeling sorry for them. I absolutely know your intentions come from a kind-hearted place, and you are sweet to be concerned for others, but instead of creating a world of hurt and upset that only your mind is affected by, send blessings and prayers instead. Be mindful of holding on to emotional ties of attachment and move forward guilt-free for your own peace of mind. Interesting. Yeah, because the Nine of Swords can be really like tossing and turning and worrying about, perhaps it's things that are coming up, like I said, within you that derail you, or also things that are happening around you that you feel helpless about, and you feel, guilty, and like all of this stuff that gets you kind of on a hamster wheel because there is so much going on. It's so intense. So finding your place in that and finding those things that you can do, like sending, if it is, sending good energy, or just learning as much as you can about, something, and, acquiring knowledge about it can be even helpful. So if that resonates, again, go outside, bring awareness to that, and continue to move forward guilt-free. Ask yourself and say no, right? Ask yourself why, say no, because there's things that are just not coming with you right now. And it feels as though this junction is this time to do that final cleanup, that final tie up and turn towards the next direction. Again, too, the word victim was mentioned, which is interesting. This victimhood, victimizing others and victimizing yourself. Perhaps that's something that's important to reflect on if that resonates in a certain way, right? All right. And what does it say here? Release, say no, and eat some cake. And that doesn't mean don't care about what's going on around you or don't care about those that you love. But if you're overexerting yourself, or you're enabling, or you're victimizing someone, that, you know, that it's inappropriate, and they're working through and they're finding their power in things, you know, watch for that. Watch for that and think about empowering the situation more, and doing different things to support those that you love, or a cause or a crisis, right? Virgo brings it into us having everything that we need to navigate the experiences of our life, right? And finding ways to be of service. And that doesn't mean like carrying everyone on your back when they don't want to be there anyway. They want to do their own thing, right? And supporting them in that. And of course, right, that doesn't mean don't care. It just means don't be aware of when you're cycling through, like being on a hamster wheel about it. And if it's bringing up like these feelings of guilt and shame,